Welcome to the Sales Influence Podcast, where we talk about finding the why in how people buy. I'm your host, Victor Antonio. Thank you for joining me. Always appreciate your time. Thank you for lending me those wonderful ears. Now, I was reading a book called The Seller's Challenge. I want you to look it up. The Seller's Challenge. Now, in this book, there's this chapter, small section rather, that talks about, basically leveling up your questions. And they had this great example of really leveling up a good question. Again, something, I knew intuitively, but they seem to articulate in a very cool way. And so I'm going to use their example. Again, the book, The Seller's Challenge. Now, here, for example, is a good question you would ask. Let's say you're in a B2B sales scenario. You're trying to find out who the decision maker is. The good question you might ask, let's call that level one. The good question you might ask is, are you the person who will approve the purchase? Are you the person who will approve this purchase? Right? Straightforward question. That's a good, solid question. But now, let's go ahead and level that up one, and let's go from good to better. Let's go to level two. Again, same question, but leveled up. Who besides you is involved in the final improvement process? Who besides you is involved in the decision-making process? Who besides you is involved in the final approval? Now, you see how that differs already? The first one was, are you the person who's going to make the final decision? The second level-up question is, who besides you is involved in the final approval? In other words, how many more people are involved? Who else is involved? Great question, great question. Now, let's level it up one more, like kind of put some more muscle behind it. We're going to go from good to better. Now we're going to best. Level 3. Would you please walk me through the process to gain approval for this purchase order? Oh, listen to that. Would you please walk me through the process to gain approval for a purchase order? Now, let's walk through all levels of these questions to kind of understand what's going on here. The first one was, are you the person who approves this purchase? Now, the person can say yes or no, right? And if they do say no, they can tell you about other people. So again, that's just a simple, straightforward question. Are you the person? Now, obviously, if this is a B2C scenario, the person is probably either that person or the person's spouse. But in a B2B situation scenario, it's a little more complex. On average, you can have 6 up to 9 people involved in a decision-making process. So to ask somebody, are you the person who does the final approval, might not really give you the answer you want. Then the next level up question was, who besides you is involved in the final approval? Now you're going to get some names. So now you're going to get more names. So instead of getting just a yes or a no, now you're asking for, second level, more names. Who else besides you is involved in the decision-making process? And then last but not least, the best of the best is, would you please walk me through the process to gain approval for this purchase order? In other words, for this buy. Now, the reason I love that question even more is because beyond just who's involved, now the person is going to walk you through the process. Because maybe walking through the process, you're going to gain insight into, one, how many steps there are besides people. Also, how long does the process usually take? Who has to really sign off on this? What has to be done? If I'm selling to a company and I know they have a lengthy approval process, I can now manage my boss's expectations. Instead of saying, hey, it's going to close in 2 months, he goes, knowing their process the way I do, based on the conversations we had, we're looking at 3 to 6 months. So I can manage expectations. So by asking this level up question, you get more information. Now, why is this important for you to think about? Because maybe, I always think that, remember that movie, Any Given Sunday with Al Pacino and Jamie Foxx? And he's talked about it like, football is a game of inches, right? You just got to fight for every inch, right? To gain, ground down the field. I think in selling, it's the same thing. Look, you're listening to this and you're probably a great salesperson already. So what we're looking for is not big ideas to shift or change your outcomes, but maybe what we're looking for are little inches here and there to level your game up. So what if I asked you to take on this challenge? What if I asked you to look at the current questions you're asking your customers during a sales conversation, sales presentation, or maybe even during the close. What questions are you asking? And then ask yourself, can I level up this question? It may be a good question, but how could I make that question better? Just like we took this question from, are you the person responsible, to the next level, who else is responsible? To the next level is, can you walk me through the process, how these decisions are made and who's involved, right? So what questions can you level up in your presentation, in your conversations to make you that much more effective and get more information from your customers that you'll be able to use to your advantage, not only to sell more effectively, but again, to manage expectations back at the home office. It's all about the quality of the questions you ask. So ask yourself, am I asking the best questions? And that is it for this Sales Influence podcast. Don't forget to leave me some feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. Let me know what you think. I always appreciate your feedback. Also, check out the Sales Velocity Academy. You got to check it out. I've added some great new courses. All my books are there. And if you're serious about increasing your sales ability, go to salesvelocityacademy.com. Lastly, I want to thank you for listening. This is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care. Hi, I'm Victor Antonio. I'm an author, sales trainer, and keynote speaker. I'm often asked, what makes a great speaker? Is it someone who delivers real content that the audience can use? Is it someone who engages the audience so they're part of the learning experience? Or is it someone who can motivate an audience to push them beyond their comfort zone and discover new abilities? The answer is yes. But the most important thing to remember is that I'm not there to look good. I'm there to make my client look good. Simply put, it's never about me, and it's always about them.